Great, thanks, Summer, and great to be here, guys. Great to see you all today, and thanks for joining us. And yeah, so thank you, Summer, for recording this too. We can send this out to those who can't attend today. So now I'd like to start by posing a question, though. So if you could perhaps answer in the chat bar below, that would be great. So I would like to pose the question, what does success mean to you? Take a moment to think about that. And how do you know that you're successful? Welcome. Okay, so thanks, Lindy. So it's so for you, it's about being listed on the ASX. That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Aldwin is saying success equals a balanced wheel in all 8 areas of life. Yeah, thank you. Doing what I like, enjoying it, and making it viable, enjoying the journey. Yeah, thank you. And so with this, I was also like to pose the more of a, oh, thanks, Taja. Balanced lifestyle, doing what you love, making a difference in the community. Yeah, thank you. So I would also like to pose more of this rhetorical question. And I was just wondering whether you think it might be possible for success to include the environment and other living beings as well. And for me, this reflection has had a huge impact in my business. Initially working as a financial advisor, I've seen firsthand how greed and profit above all else was destroying lives, from the BHP disasters in South America, where the spills from their mining destroyed entire villages, to the Bangladeshi factory collapse, to Rio Tinto blowing up indigenous sacred sites. I felt called to find another way, a way in which everyone and everything can thrive. And so this led me to explore ethical investing, where it's a process of reallocating money towards companies that target sustainability. However, when I first got into this space about 8 years ago, I found a lot of greenwashing going on, and it was really hard to identify whether ethical investing was actually making a difference at all. And so, and with the trust in already being eroded in the financial industry from the GFC, I felt like, I needed to find a way to be able to demonstrate that ethical investing is actually making a difference. And so I remember asking various fund managers for a sustainability or an impact report that they can show me what impact that they were actually generating. And a lot of them had no idea. I remember like the eyes would glaze over. It was like, what? What do you mean? Why? There was one or two that had sustainability reports, and these were some of the pioneer fund managers. But there was a big gap that I saw in the market. And so I just started basically generating my own impact reports based on the data that I had access to. And then I shared this with other fund managers that I would be speaking to. And And the great news is that over the last couple of years, there's more and more ethical investment managers that are providing impact reports now, where we can see what they are actually doing and how they're making a difference. In fact, if the last 2 years have taught us anything, I believe it's that Milton Friedman was wrong about the purpose of business, especially in today's complex world. Sure, maximizing shareholder profit is important, but to break this cycle of distrust, we need to really be able to consider all stakeholders. And I'm just going to share my screen here so you can see the slides. So yeah, it's time now for business to recognize that it has an obligation to all stakeholders, consumers, employees, communities, investors, and the environment. In fact, there's a recent study by Edelman. Some of you in the marketing world may know of the studies that Edelman do. They found that all these stakeholders want business to engage more in finding solutions to society's issues. And there was one of their most recent reports, they've identified that the level of trust in our governments and media has just dropped significantly, and business now leads government by a 53-point margin and is viewed as more ethical than government by about 26 points. There's more than half of consumers will buy or advocate for brands based on their beliefs, while 6 in 10 employees will choose their employers based on their shared values or beliefs. And expectations are high for CEOs to speak out publicly on social and political issues. But speaking out is not enough. Apparently, according to their reports, 81% of respondents want CEOs to be front and center and discussing public policy or what their companies have done to be able to solve some of these problems. And as some of you might have seen over the last few months, this concept of the great resignation, it's another indication of change. Employees are just fed up with toxic work cultures. So when I hear a business owner say that the primary purpose of their organization is to make money, I believe that business is destined for mediocrity. Organizations whose primary focus is on their own financial performance, they don't create the financial or the competitive differentiation or the emotional engagement required for lasting success. An overemphasis on profit points the organization inward, and the staff begin focusing on short-term gains, and there's little innovation, and mediocrity will eventually prevail. But by embedding purpose across the business, from strategy, operating model to values and brand, stakeholder engagement, companies can address the economic, social, and environmental issues facing us and secure a long-term financial success. There's recent reports from Deloitte that indicate that purpose-driven companies witness a higher market share and can grow up to 3 times faster on average than their competitors. In fact, there are many other reports that also demonstrate that business with purpose beyond money outperform, such as the B Corp movement in the UK, which is growing 28 times faster than the national economic growth. So, How are you positioned for this growth? I want to share a little analogy that I came across, which sort of demonstrates the potential of this growth. If you imagine for a moment a watertight football stadium, and if you were to put a drop of water into that stadium and double it every minute, how long would you think it would take to fill that football stadium with water? Any ideas? Weeks, months? Well, it's actually 44 minutes. But the most amazing thing is actually at the 40-minute mark, the stadium is still 93% empty. And you'd be thinking at that point, what's all this fuss about? There's nothing going on here. But within the last 4 minutes, you're either going to be drowning or swimming, depending on how you position yourself for those last few minutes. And this is the thing with the characteristic of exponential growth, is that for a long time, you have no idea of what's going on. And this is certainly the case with technology and how it has impacted business. But it also may be the case for purpose-led business as well. So, how do you embed purpose into your business? What can you do? Is it as simple as giving 10% to charity? I think there's more to it than that. You know, there's a well-quoted statistic that says that 80% of the ecological impacts of a product are locked in at the design phase. And this is an interesting point here, because it reminds me of a popular and well-known quote from Einstein, is that we cannot solve our problems, today's problems, with the same level of thinking that created them. So it's like we have to think differently. And there's another great quote from Paul Polman, who's the former CEO of Unilever, where he said, this world is changing enormously. In any position in a company, you need to work very hard on learning new skills, but you also need to unlearn some of the old skills of the past. And this is a very interesting point here, because I believe that the business models that have been taught and are being taught are based on an outdated paradigm. And purpose is not something that can be taught, really. It comes from a deep sense of connection to yourself, to your community, to the environment. And it's from this place that true innovation can occur. And I just want to share a little bit about a book that I read that has been really influential, written by an Indigenous guy called Tyson Yunkaporta, who wrote a book called Sand Talk: How Indigenous Thinking Can Save the World. And he really approaches this in a number of different ways, but through the lens of Indigenous thinking. And he really demonstrates that we need to come from a completely different place when looking to address some of the problems that we see. And as entrepreneurs, we're here to solve problems. I know I also run an experiential workshop called Innovate for Impact, and it's a simulated team challenge that encourages you to find solutions from this space within you in order to succeed with a particular project. So ultimately, I believe that achieving and demonstrating true success will come back to your mission. And your mission statement should declare what the company wants to achieve, who they want to support, and why they want to support them. And over time, companies' mission statements should be revised as needed to reflect any changes in the business new culture. From here, you can work out what your theory of change is. What outcomes that you're aiming to achieve for your stakeholders as a result of operating your enterprise. And then once you've identified the outcomes that you're wanting to achieve, then you can look at various ways of being able to track and measure that impact. And the benefits of this include a better understanding of all your stakeholders and the environmental and social impact you have. It'll improve the operational effectiveness and your efficiency of your business as well. There is also another famous quote by Drucker who says, "What is measured can be improved." And it's also from here, it gives you the benefit of being able to communicate this impact to your stakeholders, which will help to attract and retain more clients, staff, funding, and investors. So some metrics that you can potentially focus on are around people and planet. These represent the three spheres of sustainability, which is people, planet, and profit. And in the area of people, the most simplest and perhaps the most common approach that we've seen at the moment is a company giving a percentage of their profits to some charity. Okay. But then if you're really wanting to engage with your stakeholders and your community and actually see the real impact that you're having by measuring this, perhaps you can start looking at metrics like the number of people that you've impacted, or conduct some surveys with your stakeholders. And then from there, you can then find out what the social return on your investment is, the SROI. And with your impact around the environment, some of the metrics that you might look at are waste management, how many kilograms you've saved from landfill, what your carbon footprint is, how much water you might have saved, or how many trees you might have planted. Another approach is also looking at sustainable development goals. And these sustainable development goals represent a comprehensive framework to address some of the major social and environmental problems facing humanity at the moment. 17 goals have been identified, ranging from food and hunger to quality education, greater equality, gender equality, water, renewable energies, more sustainable communities, life on water, life on land. And this is a great way to be able to target your outcomes that you're wanting to achieve as well. Now, some examples of businesses that are doing this include this is a local business called Recycle Mats. What they have done is that they are using recycled plastic to manufacture their mats. And on their website, they've identified, as you can see in the slide here, that they've saved over 296,951 kilograms of materials from landfill. Now, they also have engaged with some different Indigenous artists with some of the designs of their mats as well. So yeah, they like to spread their impact beyond just the environment as well. Another business this is another Australian business, Oceano Vision, where they use traditional artisanal methods combined with cutting-edge innovation to produce handmade eyewear from the finest natural and sustainable materials on Earth. And they use some of the proceeds to fund impactful environmental and social causes. But one of the metrics they do is known as the one-on-one thing. With every sale, they've identified that 12 kilograms of ocean litter is collected. And this is a printing business that has sort of gone very niche and demonstrated their impact. Words with Heart, they create beautiful stationery products that are kind to the environment. And with every purchase, they fund education programs for women and girls. And what they've identified is that they've saved over 22,000 kilowatts of energy, over 165,000 litres of water, 13,500 kilograms of wood, and they've funded over 100,000 days of education for girls. And this is my financial planning business, where I started to put together some impact that I've been able to generate. And up here in the corner, you'll see that one of the metrics is about saving carbon emissions. And it's over 141% less carbon emissions than the average portfolio. And the reason why it's probably over 100% is because there's a carbon offset included as well. And so that figure is the equivalent of saving 953,000 trees. And I also like to align with different SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And there's investments that particularly focus on clean water, gender equality, reduced inequalities, just to name a few. So regarding your workplace, what does purpose look like there? Now, in order to meet these evolving expectations from staff and truly connect with your customers at a deeper level, companies are compelled to transcend the traditional paradigm of corporate social responsibility and show a broader vision in their value creating strategy. While traditional CSR programs might explore and include employee well-being and philanthropy and volunteering opportunities, which I have wrapped under the label corporate citizenship, corporate social innovation takes it to the next level by exploring shared value. Okay, and shared value is where the social need, business opportunities, and an organization's resources meet. And that in the intersection of that is where you find that shared value. Now, just to give you an example of what that might look like, UK retailer Marks and Spencer developed a program in support of Oxfam's collection of used clothing. So realizing that many of their customers had full closets, Marks and Spencer brought in a swapping program, which combined shopping and swapping. So customers are encouraged to bring in a piece of clothing they no longer want. And when they come to Marks and Spencer, and buy something new, so they drop the clothing in the convenience box at the store and they receive a coupon entitling them to a discount on their purchase. So some of the benefits of corporate social innovation and shared value include boosting employee engagement and productivity. But there's also the development of innovative solutions to traditional challenges and access to new markets. And they can really create a competitive advantage to attract and retain quality staff and customers. So the time is now for companies to move beyond the generosity approach to a more targeted, business-aligned effort with a focus on understanding not only the organizations they wish to support, but also the root causes of the issues they are actually working towards solving. This will not only have a far greater employee and stakeholder engagement, but it will catalyze positive change for society and the environment. And more institutions and investors are showing an interest in operating with these companies. And more in particular, the companies that can showing and demonstrating measurable social and environmental impacts, as well as financial returns. And there's a great quote from Ben Crow, the director of Mojo Crow. Great businesses don't make you feel good about the business, they make you feel good about yourself. So these are some of the areas how I can help, is around the area of exploring shared value opportunities for your business. So it's more than just finding a charity that you can donate to, but how can you innovate? How can you actually work together and create a shared value that opens up access to new opportunities as well? And also, I look at how you can improve your employee well-being programs as well, or exploring your theory of change and then implementing some impact measurement solutions. So these are some different ways I can help. And if you are interested at all, here is a QR code where you can book in a strategy session, free strategy session, to have a chat with me. But in the meantime, though, just wondering if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask me.
Got a question?
Yes.
That's me, Jenny. Sorry, my video's not on. I was wondering if, say, you're interested in embedding purpose in your business, but you're not really sure where to start. Like, where would be a good place for me to sort of figure out where my purpose is? Because I know I can think of a lot of things I'd like to do, or a lot of things I'd like to, maybe help with, or a lot of my values, but it's hard to pick just one and to really sort of build the framework of what I want to do around that idea.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it comes back to your mission statement of your business as well, and what you're doing, what products and services that you offer, and who you're trying to support and why. And within that, there you might get some ideas. And this is something that I can, having that conversation as well. You might you can brainstorm some ideas around that and ways how it's, like I said before, just innovative ways of actually creating real change and impact to some people in need as well. There's also a great sort of philosophy, a Japanese word called ikigai that I love. Ikigai is a Japanese word which means reason for being, and it's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. So each of those different areas, you can do a brainstorm as well of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you be paid for. And in the middle, in the intersection of all of that, you'll find your ikigai, your unique reason for being.
Thank you. That's beautiful. I think that that's a really good way to get started on figuring out what my purpose is as I build my new business. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
I have a question, Adrian. So when you work with a business, is it that you work and to do the triple impact or to do the purpose, do you work with them about writing their mission statement, or do you do an overview? Like, how do you actually work with a customer to find their purpose? Or like, do you actually go and find their purpose, or do you find ways that they can install their values?
Yeah, well, it starts with the conversation around the mission statement or reviewing their initial mission statement.
Okay.
And then from there, it's like, well, what are some other areas or causes, social causes that might align with what you're currently doing, and or with what you might be passionate about, or what might be most important to you, and then exploring how then they can then start to align and connect as well. It's because it's the more aligned it is, it's just like with your branding. When everything is aligned, there's a real connection that flows down the line to the customer, and it just all clicks. So if you can find that that special cause or impact that you're wanting to, that outcome that you're wanting to create, it will definitely align and click for all your different stakeholders. But it would also, actually, now that I've just mentioned the stakeholders, I think a good starting point also is perhaps asking your stakeholders, identifying firstly who your stakeholders are. It's not just your customer, but who else in your community is a part of your business, and then you can send them a little survey as well. So getting feedback from your different stakeholders can help to also articulate your mission statement for them as well.
So do you, that's awesome. The other question I have is, like, do you align with, like, say, certain companies or charity companies? I know with one of the ones that was part of an accelerator I was in, they worked very closely with a company called B1G1, which was by Bring One, Give One.
Yeah.
And they were really fantastic in the, even just 1 cent contributed to, planting a tree in Ethiopia, or 1 cent could contribute to, educating someone. They had all these amazing programs. So do you, when you work with people, do you recommend like companies like that, or so that they're aligned with, whether it's charities or company, where they can then do those good things and align their company with that? Do you work with that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a number of different platforms available to be able to find the right cause for you. I don't use B1G1. I've used Kiva. It's a microfinance platform. For me, it's more than just giving. The microfinance program, it funds different businesses or different projects around the world, and um, so it also teaches these people how to use money. So rather than just getting given money, it's actually really fostering and perpetuating an entrepreneurship model. So yeah, so Kiva has they have different partners on the ground in different countries around the world, which their aim is to help to I guess um, it, build the business in a way so then they can be able to not only pay back the micro loan that they've been given, but to uh, also pay back the so people like myself, it starts out really simple, $25, as simple as that, and then that gets paid back, and then that can then go back into the system of funding another business as well. So yeah, there's lots of different platforms available, and it's about finding. It's more than just giving though as well, and this is what I guess the main message I want to get across today is that giving is just a starting point. What else can be done? You know, when you really truly start engaging with your stakeholders, there's something quite unique that can unfold from that. Like I love that story that I shared around Marks and Spencer and Oxfam. You know, it's just it's it solves real world problems as well.
Yeah, that was a cool story. Really like that.
Did anyone else have any questions? I noticed a few people have popped on late, so we'll make sure we get the link to this recording out to everybody who's missed the start or any of those guests that didn't get on there. Adrian, I was just going to ask with with the Great Reset and the net zero that the government's talking about at the moment, this is going to be, although it's something that people can choose to opt in for at the moment, it's relatively new. For some people it's been around for a long time, but for a lot of people they're only just starting to think about these things. But this is going to become something that every business is going to have to do, isn't it, in the future?
Well, yeah, there's another report that I refer to at the beginning of every year. It's called the ESG trends. It's more focused in the financial services industry, but they've actually indicated that this trend of being able to, well, firstly, understand your own impact is actually going to now trickle down into small business. And yeah, it is. It's something that that we are all going to have to understand. And from and this it's really important to understand, I guess, your baseline, because really, if you want to operate more efficiently and effectively as a business, you've got to understand your baseline, and where are you, I mean, right down from your financials as well. You know, what is your what do you need to how do you what do you need to do to cover your costs? So that's just one example. But then when you start looking at your energy consumption or your water consumption, you might be surprised at different elements, and then just looking at different ways that that you could be able to offset that, or to be able to improve that somehow. That that absolutely will help. Oh, it looks like my battery's running low.
Oh no. So what you're saying, Adrian, baby steps, but everyone should get started.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It is something that is unfolding, and there's different reports that have indicated that this is a $26 trillion opportunity as we move towards these the 2030 is one sort of goalpost, is to try and make a real dent in the rise of temperature before that time.
Yeah, I can imagine there's some huge opportunities coming.
Yeah,
in the future,
it's amazing actually. Yeah, it's amazing. Like I remember, I think Buckminster Fuller once said, you know, there in the next 5 to 10 years, and he said this years ago, right? But we're going to see businesses rise up that we can't even comprehend right now. You know that, and so yeah, that this is exactly what's going to be happening in the next decade. We're going to be seeing all kinds of new and innovative businesses and entrepreneurs being able to solve problems, because that's the key, is being able to solve problems.
Fantastic. Thanks for enlightening us all. It's so good to see how the other businesses are working towards getting this done, because I guess unless you actually go out there and research this stuff, we just don't know what these businesses are doing, getting up to out there. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, well, and that's, yeah, and the other thing to point out there too is that there are some businesses that are doing great, but no one knows what they're doing. So this is where being able to communicate, well, firstly understand what your impact is, and then communicate it to your stakeholders is also really important. Because otherwise, you know, you could be doing, you know, great, but then, you know, people just don't know.
Yeah, and it also helps us to start thinking about, if we can see what they're doing, it can help us to start thinking about what we can do as well. So yeah, that was great. Thank you so much, Adrian.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Summer.
Thanks for joining us. It was so good to have you on and share all that information with us. Like I said before, I will share this link out to everybody who registered for the event. So those who missed out will be able to see it as well. And those of you who'd like to look over it a little bit more and maybe share it with somebody else, you can do that as well. So I will email that out to everybody. And just to let you know, our next Lunch and Learn will be on the 7th of March. We'll be back face-to-face next month. And our speaker is Ben Nolan, and he's going to be talking about ideas don't matter, only the execution of the idea matters. So interested to see what that's all about. I have put the link for that Lunch and Learn in the chat. Just for those guys who may not be Gold Coast Hub members yet, Lunch and Learns are actually free to people who have a membership. So the membership actually costs the same amount as a live event. It's $39 for 12 months, and you get your Lunch and Learn free every month, as well as discounts on other events that we have throughout the year. So it's really good value to get that community membership. And Denny, can I just get you to drop your email into the chat for anyone who hasn't got a community membership that might like to look at getting one of those? And just as well, I've also dropped the link for Brunch Like a Boss. So Brunch Like a Boss is next week, on Tuesday next week. It's a ladies only event. So sorry, guys, this one's not for you. But we have two fabulous female founders, Annie Flemsteed and Lisa Bincat. So if any of the ladies who are here today would like to attend that Brunch Like a Boss event, that is next Tuesday. So yeah, the link is in the chat as well, if anyone wants to grab that link before we get off the call. And if you don't grab it from here, it will be on our socials as well, those two events. So you can jump on our socials and grab them from there. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Adrian, so much for presenting for us today, and hopefully we'll see you all next month.
Great. Thanks, Summer.
All right. Bye for now, everyone.
Thanks, Benny. See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, Summer, did so you've got that recording,